If you had long hair in ancient Israel, you might just be a Nazirite. Numbers 6, verse 1. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel, and tell them, when either man or woman shall make a special vow, the vow of the Nazirite, to separate himself to Yahweh." Comment, what is a Nazirite? It doesn't have anything to do with Jesus' hometown of Nazareth. The word is Hebrew Nazir, so Nazirite is a Hebrew word that we adopted into English. It's a person who's devoted, consecrated, or separated to the Lord by keeping a special vow, the vow of the Nazirite. It seems by entering into the vow, the Nazirite is making an appeal for Yahweh's hand to be on him so that he can accomplish some holy goal, task, or purpose. Verse 2, he or she could be any person from Israel, man or woman. Samson's the only biblical character we know of by name who was specifically and definitely a Nazirite, Judges 13:5. It turned out that his special purpose was to wreak havoc among the Philistines. But an untold number of unnamed Israelites also took the vow, Amos 2:11. In addition, a number of other men might have been Nazirites, but the text doesn't specifically apply that name to them. These include the Old Testament prophet Samuel, the New Testament prophet John the Baptist, and Jesus' brother James in the New Testament. The vow could be lifelong or temporary. Coming up, the Nazirite must abstain from 3 things during the time of his consecration and separation. Simply stated, he must keep his distance from grapes, razors, and the bodies of dead persons. Those are the 3 items of the vow. First, the matter of the grapes, as we go to verse 3. He shall separate himself from wine and strong drink. He shall drink no vinegar of wine, or vinegar of fermented drink. Neither shall he drink any juice of grapes, nor eat fresh grapes or dried. All the days of his separation he shall eat nothing that is made of the grapevine, from the seeds even to the skins. Comment, no grape products whatsoever. Vinegar comes from grapes. Verse 5, all the days of his vow of separation no razor shall come on his head until the days are fulfilled, in which he separates himself to Yahweh. He shall be holy. He shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow long. Comment, no grapes, no cutting of the hair. Luke 1:15 in the New Testament, an angel told a barren woman that she would have a son, that he would be great before the Lord, that he must not drink wine or strong drink, and that he would be filled with the Holy Spirit even from the time he was in the womb. She became the mother of John the Baptist. The text never explicitly stated that he was a Nazirite, but he might well have been. This is why we sometimes see him depicted in art and movies with crazy long hair. Now the third part of the vow, verse 6. All the days that he separates himself to Yahweh, he shall not go near a dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father or for his mother, for his brother or for his sister when they die, because his separation to God is on his head. All the days of his separation he is holy to Yahweh. Comment, a person is ceremonially unclean for 7 days if he touches a dead person's body, or even if he goes into a tent where there is a dead body. Numbers 19:14. So a Nazirite can't attend to the dead, even those of his own family, because, verse 8, he is holy to Yahweh. Up to this point, Yahweh hasn't called anyone holy except Aaron and his sons, who are consecrated and separated from Israel to be priests. So the vow of the Nazirite is a very solemn and serious thing. The Nazirite had better be faithful to his vow. Otherwise, no telling what might happen. Leviticus 10:3, Yahweh said, quote, I will show myself holy to those who come near me, end quote. He said that in reference to his consumption of Nadab and Abihu, the priests who disrespected him. And certainly something very bad happened to Samson, the Nazirite, when he opened the door to having his hair cut, thus breaking his Nazirite vow. So the Nazirite is holy, and the Lord watches closely to make sure his holy ones do not profane their vows. Coming up, what if the unthinkable happens? Verse 9. If a man dies very suddenly beside him, and he defiles the head of his separation, then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing, On the seventh day he shall shave it. Comment, any Israelite, after attending the dead, had to go through a 7-day process of cleansing, Numbers 19, verses 14 through 19. So if a sudden death occurred next to a Nazirite, he too must go through the usual 7-day process that anyone must do. But when that's over, he also must end his Nazirite vow by shaving his head. And, verse 10, on the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest to the door of the tent of meeting. The priest shall offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering, and make atonement for him, because he sinned by reason of the dead, and shall make his head holy that same day. He shall separate to Yahweh the days of his separation, and shall bring a male lamb a year old for a trespass offering. But the former days shall be void, because his separation was defiled. Comment, in summary, he must bring 2 birds and a male lamb, and start the days of his vow all over again. If he originally pledged his vow to be for a period of a year, for example, he must start the year over again. When the person initiated the vow, he didn't visit the priest. He simply vowed in his heart and began to observe the 3 duties. But coming up, if he ends the vow, he must do it formally before the Lord at the door of the tent of meeting. Verse 13, this is the law of the Nazirite. When the days of his separation are fulfilled, he shall be brought to the door of the tent of meeting, and he shall offer his offering to Yahweh. 1 male lamb a year old without defect for a burnt offering, 1 ewe lamb a year old without defect for a sin offering, and 1 ram without defect for peace offerings, and a basket of unleavened bread, cakes of fine flour mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and their meal offering and their drink offerings. The priest shall present them before Yahweh, and shall offer his sin offering and his burnt offering. He shall offer the ram for a sacrifice of peace offerings to Yahweh, with the basket of unleavened bread. The priest shall offer also its meal offering and its drink offering. Comment, that was 3 animals. They're for burnt, sin, and peace offerings. Verse 17, it says, quote, the priest shall offer also its meal offering and its drink offering, end quote. When the people come into the land, they're going to bring meal and drink offerings with every burnt and peace offering, no matter what the purpose, Numbers chapter 15. Yahweh usually doesn't require meal and drink offerings at the present time with burnt and peace offerings, because they're in the wilderness and short of flour, oil, and wine. They're short on everything but manna. But verse 17, to end a Nazirite vow, the meal and drink offerings must come. So if someone makes the vow now, he'll have to keep the vow until he can get his hands on some flour, oil, and wine. Coming up while the Nazirite is there to make his sacrifices, verse 18, the Nazirite shall shave the head of his separation at the door of the tent of meeting, and shall take the hair of the head of his separation and put it on the fire, which is under the sacrifice of peace offerings. Comment, he goes from being a long-haired Nazirite to a bald man who's free from his vow. His hair went into the fire of the altar. Now, specifically for handling the ram of peace offering, verse 19, the priest shall take the boiled shoulder of the ram and 1 unleavened cake out of the basket and 1 unleavened wafer, and shall put them on the hands of the Nazirite after he has shaved the head of his separation. And the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before Yahweh. This is holy for the priest, together with the breast that is waved and the thigh that is offered. After that, the Nazirite may drink wine. Comment, remember the peace offering is a shared meal between Yahweh, the priest, and the person who brings the sacrifice. The Nazirite will take most of the ram home and celebrate the successful completion of his vow with the meat of the offering, and for the first time in a long time, wine. Verse 21, this is the law of the Nazirite who vows, and of his offering to Yahweh for his separation, in addition to that which he is able to get. Comment, in other words, if he can afford it, he can bring other animals in addition to the 3 that he must bring. Going on, according to his vow which he vows, so he must do after the law of his separation. Comment, he must end his vow according to protocol. He shouldn't end it in some manner of his own choosing. Now we change subjects. We come to a passage famous for its beauty and wonder. Numbers 6, verse 22. Yahweh spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, This is how you shall bless the children of Israel. You shall tell them, Yahweh bless you and keep you. Yahweh make his face to shine on you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his face toward you and give you peace. So they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Comment: in the New Testament, Jesus taught his disciples to pray by teaching them the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. This is the Old Testament version. Like the Lord's Prayer, it comes straight from the lips of God. You can't go wrong with it. This one is called the blessing of Aaron, or the Aaronic blessing. It's a statement of God's will. As the prayer says, it is his will to bless us, keep us, make his face shine on us, be gracious to us, lift up his face to us, and give us peace. By lifting up his face, we can be sure he's not ignoring us. He keeps watch. He knows his face is lifted up. But by blessing, keeping, shining, and being gracious, he does more than just keep watch. He takes sure action for our benefit, with the particular promise that he will give us peace. I, for one, can testify that on the day I accepted Christ as my Lord, I immediately passed from a state of continual emptiness and turmoil to a state of peace. With all that power behind us, nothing can really go wrong unless we trip ourselves and refuse to look up to the face shining down on us. With regard to making a Nazirite vow or any kind of vow, Jesus said to avoid it because we have so little power to fulfill our vows. Matthew 5, verses 33 through 37. But we don't have to make a vow to be blessed. God has the power to follow through, and he has vowed to bless us according to the blessing of Aaron. That's the chapter. Number 7 is next at landofhavilah.net. Havilah is Havilah. Numbers 7.